Hi, welcome to the HYCU webinar, Purpose-Built Data Protection for the Nutanix-led data center. So we'll start here in just a minute. We'll wait for a couple more people to join in. And so we have some really great information for you today about HYCU and how it can protect customers' data. So just stay tuned for just a minute. We'll go ahead and get started. So this session will be recorded, so you will get a recording of this so you can review later, pass it on to your friends, and let others see this video. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm John Lee. I'm a senior sales engineer, and I'll be doing the presentation today. In the U.S. Central Tola region, we also have John Hogan, who's the account executive, and we have Patrick Slevin, who is our HYCU channel manager. So today we're going to be talking about HYCU. And who is HYCU? We've been around for over 25 years in building data protection solutions for different vendors. And I can't tell you who they are because we're under NDA, but many of these solutions are in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And we built them to spec for these corporations, and they're marketing the products under their own name. And we built 8 different solutions. Or had a major hand in building them. We specialize in the hybrid cloud, and we sold a product to Citrix a few years back and gave us a bunch of cash, and we wanted to take our data protection experience and build a product and market it under our own name. We reached out to Nutanix, and they really liked what we had to say. We made the deliverables that they asked for, and we very quickly became a strategic partner of Nutanix. And they really liked our solution. In fact, they even use it in-house to back up their environment. But the solution really we released this in 2017, and recently, Google and Microsoft both reached out and saw that we had a really great Nutanix solution and asked us to build backup solutions for their cloud platforms. And hence, we started our hybrid cloud strategy, and we're now strategic partners with all of them. So we have a really great NPS score of 91, and we're very proud of that and working to keep that as a high overall NPS score. Also, just I didn't do some housekeeping up front, my apologies. So there is a question box, so if you have questions, please ask your questions in the question box, and we'll do our best to get those answered as soon as possible. So back to the slide here, I do want to point out that we've won several awards from Nutanix, and you can see that across the bottom as they do really like our solution, and just the partnership that we have with them. Nutanix is not invested in us, and we're not invested in them, other than we are strategic partners, and we have really great alignment with Nutanix. And to that alignment, at their strategic alignment, this is just to show that throughout the years here, as we came out with new features, or Nutanix came out with new features such as the V3 API to support HV backups, we supported that. We support ESX, and this you can see across the bottom there as they came out with new features adding to their V3 API to support it. We supported it. Nutanix Files with change file tracking. We actually helped them build that. That change file tracking API. Some of these features, such as objects, we support even before Nutanix released it. And they just released the Nutanix clusters on AWS, and we have it in here under the old name. But we supported that back in Q3, but they just released it. But we support things before either day 0 or before Nutanix releases them in most cases. So we're very much aligned with Nutanix, and you're not going to find a solution that has that tight of integration and alignment with the Nutanix roadmap. And so we support both HV and ESX. and ESX outside of Nutanix, as well as you can see the remote office, branch office files, and I'll get into more of that a little bit later on. So, and we have initiatives with Nutanix regarding XyLeap. So just to give you a quick overview of some of our customers, you can see that we have a lot of different customers, a lot of different industries: banking industry, we have oil industry, we have the U.S. government, Department of Defense. We're in every area of the Department of Defense, and they like our solution because it's secure. And it's not running Windows, it's running CentOS, which makes it a very secure system from any sort of attack, a ransomware attack, or any other malware. So it's also very lightweight, so it's very easy to install and get configured. So, and also in the center there, you can see Nutanix as one of our customers, and they did a test of a variety of products, and HYCU won out as the solution for their data center, and we're backing up about 4,000 VMs worldwide at Nutanix. So how does HYCU work? Well, it's just a software appliance. So we don't sell hardware, so HYCU is just a guest VM, a single guest VM that runs within the Nutanix cluster, and then it can back up multiple clusters because we're leveraging that v3 API. That one instance can support HV, ESX, ESX inside and outside of Nutanix, and also Windows physical servers. We do have physical Linux support coming up shortly. So that single VM then can pull the snapshot data or backup data from those VMs completely agentless. So there's no agents that need to be installed anywhere within the environment, and even for physical servers. And we pull that data and then we push it over to a target. Now that target can be a Nutanix storage dense node, like a Nutanix mine or Nutanix objects, and HYCU can run on that cluster also, because it's just a Nutanix cluster. But also, we support anything that supports NFS, SMB, or iSCSI. We also support any S3 interface, so something like Wasabi or Cloudian, ILAN. We also support Azure and GCP. So as I like to say, we can back up to just about anything. And we even do have tape support for long-term archives. And because HYCU is just that simple appliance that gets installed, there's really no professional services needed. So it's a quick sale for you to go talk to customers. It's not a long process, a week-long process or weeks or months to get HYCU installed and configured within the environment. Usually it can be, you can get it installed in about 3 minutes. And usually after about 15 minutes or so, you have, after you have it installed, you can have your target configured and be able to be backing up your VMs and have everything up and running. So it's very simple, and it's also very simple to tune. So it's a great way for customers to reduce the amount of effort they have to put into the overall backup system, because you can just pretty much set it and forget it. So we do leverage the Nutanix infrastructure, and our philosophy is if Nutanix already has that feature, don't rebuild it. So we leverage the Nutanix snapshotting technology, their cloning, replication, compression. So if we're backing up a Nutanix, we're taking all those things into account and using that where we can. If we're on an ESX infrastructure, we're taking V80P snapshots and then pulling that data and then be able to do the backups off those snapshots. So with that, people expect what we have here in the light purple in terms of feature sets. So they expect the application recovery, backup catalog, and you can see all these things here that are things that customers would expect, and we do all of those. But what we're different is in this darker purple layer, and that is when we're on Nutanix, we leverage the Nutanix snapshot, so there's no stun of those VMs. That snapshot happens extremely quick. We can quiesce the application also, so we get application consistent discovery. And again, this is all our application consistent backups. And again, this is all done agent free. and we get that leveraging that Nutanix technology for no impact on the environment. HYCU is also optimized for Nutanix files, so we helped write the change file tracking API. It is an open API, but there's only 2 vendors that support it. But this allows you to do extremely fast backup of Nutanix file shares. And we did a test with 20 million files, and it was just a matter of less than a second to figure out what files had changed, and then it's just a matter of how long does it take to back up those particular files. So very fast in order to do the Nutanix files backups and figure out what files have changed. So there's no walking through the whole file tree to figure out what changed, which could take days or more than a day if for 20 million files. We get an instantaneous result from Nutanix. And Robo, so I'll go a little bit more into that, but we have a way of backing up from remote office branch offices that are replicating into the data center to use that replicated copy for backing up your VMs at the Robo sites. So therefore, the data only comes across the wire once. We don't need any compute resources to back up to the cloud, so we do support cloud targets, but you don't have to put any resources out in the cloud. And also, we have a multi-tenant solution. So this hits all the items that most corporations are looking for to have in a backup solution, and we make it very easy to set up and easy to configure and set it and forget it. So moving on a little bit further, what we've done is as I mentioned, Microsoft asked us to do a solution, and also Google Cloud. And so we can back up things that are on-prem. So one instance of HYCU can back up Nutanix, or that HYCU instance can run on a VMware stack here, and it can connect up to multiple sources and be able to back those up and back them up to a set of targets. But we can also back up to these cloud targets, and then as an alternate backup target. But we also have a backup solution for Azure. So if you have native VMs running within Azure, you have customers with VMs running in Azure, or we have they have VMs running in Google Cloud Platform, we can be backing those up, those native backups, using the technology to back up those VMs that are running there. And most customers don't realize that these platforms do not guarantee the safety of the data that they have. And so they really do need a backup, because they can have data loss. And even if they inadvertently delete a backup, all their snapshots are gone. Or not a backup, but a delete a VM. All their snapshots are gone. So having a backup will protect their data, and with HYCU you can back those up into different regions. So therefore, if there's a problem with a particular region, you still have your data in a different region to be able to recover. So what we've done is we've also then added in the ability to go and spin VMs up from on-prem into the cloud, and from the cloud back onto on-prem. So this can be a DR scenario for customers to be able to restore into their VMs into a cloud environment, and then take those VMs once they're in the cloud and bring them back on-prem after the disaster's been averted. Or if customers want to migrate from cloud and bring them back on-prem, we can do that. Or if they want to migrate from on-prem into the cloud, you can do that. So it's a multi-pronged strategy that we have in order to be able to recover VMs into the cloud from backups that they've done on-prem, or take something in the cloud and bring it back. So, excuse me. So Nutanix also has something called Mine, and that's an appliance target that they have that HYCU can run on that Mine target. And so it makes the storage very quick and leveraging that. And so it becomes an appliance that you pretty much just plug in, and it provides an air gap solution. So therefore, if your any of your VMs get hit with any sort of ransomware or any viruses, it can't drift over to here and impact your targets, because these VMs don't have any direct access to the targets. So it provides that added security of that having that air gap solution. But also with the Mine target, you get this Prism dashboard. So it's the HYCU dashboard that you can use within the Prism element and then be able to launch HYCU in context. So that's an added feature with going with Mine. But Mine is, then there's another flavor that you can have, and that is you can do Nutanix objects. And this provides some additional capabilities because HYCU is running on that objects cluster, that you can use the worm capabilities of that objects cluster. And so that means the backups are immutable for a time period. So even if ransomware did get access to the target, they can't change it, and you can't even have a malicious user, a disgruntled employee, let's say, go within and say, I'm going to go and delete all the backups, because they can't, because these objects are immutable for that time period. So there's a lot of great features that within that worm capability, and by using HYCU on that Mine, on that objects cluster, gives that customers that security and stability. Now, I brought up ransomware here a couple of times, and I do want to highlight that because HYCU is running CentOS, it's not susceptible to virus attacks. And we had a couple customers hit with ransomware, and it encrypted all of their VMs. But the only VM that was not encrypted, and it was running, their HYCU is running on their Nutanix cluster, and the only VM that was not encrypted was the HYCU VM. And so these customers were able to restore their environment and get back up and running, because HYCU was up and running and nothing was encrypted. In these cases, even their backups were encrypted, because the VMs were using shares on that same target, and the cached credentials allowed that ransomware go and encrypt all the backups. And you're probably thinking, well, gee, how did HYCU be able to recover if the backups were encrypted? Well, because we leverage Nutanix storage level snapshots, and we can keep multiple of those snapshots around, HYCU is able to recover from those snapshots and therefore get their environment back up and running, and they're able to remove the virus from their system and be up and running within 24 hours. So it was a great solution for the customers to be able to go and get everything back up and running and not have to pay any of the ransom. So now, just a little bit about the competitive landscape. And we know that you're out there and you're selling multiple products, and because you're trying to meet the needs of your customers. But we want you to consider using HYCU as part of that mix. But HYCU has some really unique benefits over the others, as we're tightly integrated with Nutanix. And as I mentioned, we're strategic partners. We are aligned with their roadmap. And you're not going to find another vendor that is as tightly integrated with Nutanix as we are. Also, we are leveraging the technology, and many of these other products will have feature sets, and they'll talk about live mounting and so forth, but those only work with ESX. They don't work with the AHV. And whatever features we have with ESX, we also, or with HV, we also have with ESX, so we can leverage those snapshots to be able to do instantaneous restores. And we had a customer that restored a 4 terabyte VM, and they were able to restore that in about 40 seconds. So you don't need to have live mount when you can restore things that quickly. We're completely agentless, which really helps in the long-term management because there's less cost in managing the overall solution. There's no vendor lock-in on targets. So we support a variety of targets, and as new targets come out with new feature sets, we support the NFS, SMB, and iSCSI. And so we definitely support that. And so, HYCU will support NFS, SMB. So we've support a variety of targets, and as new technologies come out, you can support those newer technologies. Purpose built, and we built these products from the ground up, because if you have a legacy product, you will always be having to tied to that old architecture. And we said, if we start from the ground up, we can build it for a hyper-converged infrastructure. And so we build it from the ground up, which we're able to get a lot of ease of use and simplify the backups management and backup solution. So you don't have a lot of complexity in getting this set up to run and keep it running. And that also then ties into the next one of no professional services. Also, the licensing, because with a lot of these solutions, you have Windows VMs that are run, which mean you have to have Windows licenses, you need to put antivirus, you have Patch Tuesday to patch those Windows VMs. So there's a lot of extra management that you have to do with HYCU. It's a single CentOS VM, and then you can just spin that up and get that up and working. And then when you have a new release, a new upgrade, you can upgrade it right within the product itself, and we'll upgrade that and just rewrite the OS disk, and we're up and running. So upgrades, 5 minutes. And this all ties into a lower initial cost and lower total cost of ownership. And then also that ability to migrate into the cloud, and also with our solutions that we have within the cloud, those are true backup as a service, as we've designed those to be tied into the billing within the marketplace for Azure and for Google Cloud Platform, so that there's really nothing for you to install, there's nothing for you to upgrade, nothing for you to change, and when you want to scale out, because that's all handled automatically. So we've really simplified the overall solution, so you can really focus on the task, and that is, what do you want to back up and how often do you need it backed up, and make it easy to do the recovery. So that's a quick about who HYCU is, but what we wanted to do is also give you a little bit of information about sales plays. So with HYCU, you can help customers reduce their overall cost by helping them migrate over from ESX to HV. So as the HYCU licenses work the same as, so if they buy in with HYCU for ESX and HYCU running on ESX and they want to migrate to HV, they can take those same licenses and move them over. But we can also help with that migration, because we can convert HV VM or ESX VMs to HV, and that ESX can be on Nutanix or non-Nutanix, but also a physical server we can actually take and move that physical to virtual, either ESX or HV. So, but also when customers go to HV, now they no longer have to pay that VTax that comes with ESX, because HV comes with the Nutanix platform. So they can reduce their costs significantly by going to HV. And you get all the benefits of HYCU running on ESX or on HV. And again, an agentless solution. So this is a way you can save your customers money by helping them move over to HV. Also, you can increase the deal size. So using HYCU and the Nutanix files, Nutanix objects as a storage target, you can do this in one bundle. Makes it easy for the end users, because now they just have one interface, their Prism interface, that they can use to configure their storage as well as their clusters. But also HYCU's interface has a look and feel very similar to Nutanix, so it makes it all very easy for them to do the configuration. Also, we have the Robo, and I mentioned this earlier. So customers that have remote office branches and they're using Nutanix clusters, the Robo clusters at their site, and then replicating into the main data center, HYCU can then protect those remote VMs by using the replicated copy to do the backups. And this saves data transmission across the wire, because now the data is only sent across the wire once, and then we can protect those VMs. And it also provides that centralized management. And no other solution can do this. Now, if they want to put a HYCU out on each one of these, they can do that in addition to that. So they could back up locally, and then they can also then back up centrally. And then Nutanix files. Nutanix has a great file system, and so and leveraging that scale out file system that they have allows HYCU to back up those files, those file servers, and get that files backed up into not just one location, but you can have secondary copy of those files, long-term archives of them. But the real important thing is doing the incrementals. Because we use the change file API, we can get those incrementals done very quickly without adding tons of IO on your server, because you can imagine walking through the whole file tree to figure out what files have changed. That's a lot of IO that's going on that particular file server. Even if you're pre-processing all that data, it's still lots of IO, where we just make an API call to Nutanix and we get an instantaneous list of what files have changed. So again, letting your file server just work on serving files, and less effort for it to serve data for doing the backup. So with that, that's it on the presentation. What I do want to do, we're not done yet, is I want to show you a little bit about HYCU, how HYCU works. So to give you a quick demo of the HYCU. Now, I don't see any questions yet, but if people do have questions, please go ahead and ask questions. Oh, I see one now. Somebody's asking about how HYCU is licensed. HYCU is licensed in several different ways. So it can be licensed based off of the number of sockets, and then that gives you unlimited VMs. It can also be licensed on the number of VMs. So we give you two different options, and this makes it easier for customers and to choose whatever is the most cost effective for their environment. We can also do Nutanix files, and that can be on a socket basis, which then gives you unlimited. And then also you can do it on a per terabyte basis. So again, very flexible. And then we have the Protege licenses, which then allows you to do that spin up from on-prem into the cloud, and that can be done on a per VM basis or an overall socket basis. So when you take VMs here, you can spin them up into the cloud or bring them back from the cloud. So thank you for that question. So, you know, HYCU is very easy to install. As I mentioned, we're just a single CentOS VM. Here you can see that it's, you know, this one takes 74 gig of base configuration, smaller than this, but usually the base configuration of 42 gig, 8 virtual cores, and 8 gig of memory can handle about 100 VMs. So, you know, very small footprint, and then you can scale it out to larger environments. We even have a manager for larger environments that can aggregate all that information, allow you to see across multiple HYCU instances. So, but one instance of HYCU can handle multiple clusters. So here you can see we have 3 clusters in this environment. We can also do physical machines, physical windows, and you can configure your Nutanix file server. So once you have that configured, you're going to see the list of virtual machines, or you'll see the list of shares. And then it's just the simplicity of taking a virtual machine and adding a policy to it. And once we add a policy, then we'll start backing up based off the objectives that you specified within the policy. Now, out of the box, we have gold, silver, bronze, and exclude. So you can use those, or you can create your own with just a few clicks. So assigning a policy will then go ahead and start the backup, and then we will then be backing up those VMs based off the objectives that you've specified. And here you can see we have an HVVM. Now here you can see we have ESX VMs, we have HV, we have physical, we have ESX outside of Nutanix. It's all in the same pane because everything works the same from this point forward. So with this VM here, we have done we have multiple snapshots, so we can keep multiple snapshots. These are Nutanix snapshots, so we can do an instantaneous recovery, and I can recover this VM probably in about 5 seconds. And let's just go ahead and do that. So we're going to come off a snapshot here, and we're going to go ahead and restore that. I'm going to clone it to give it a new name, and so, whoops, I didn't take my click. There we go. And we'll clone that VM. I'm just going to give it a quick, my initials. And then we're going to just spin it up. I'm not going to power it on, but we're just going to go ahead and do that restore. And now you're going to be able to see that machine going to be restored. And we're in the process of doing that restore. And it's 170 gig VM, but it's smaller than that. But how HYCU works, oh, we've already restored that. So you can see how fast that is because we're leveraging Nutanix technology to do that. Now, recovering off a snapshot is definitely fast, but let's say you don't have a snapshot. Well, it'd take about 8 minutes to do the recovery of this VM coming off that particular target. So we keep fulls, we do incrementals, and so you can see here, we back up only the change blocks, and we can have a primary copy, we can have a secondary copy that can have a separate retention period. So, and we can even do long-term archives. So I think that we have some archives here that are going to be sticking around here for a little while. And so it's very easy to go and create long-term archives. We do application consistent backups. So these credentials allow us to do file level recovery, but also allows us to do, again, without agents, we can do that file level recovery, but we can also, those credentials allow us to do application discovery, do application consistent backups of the applications, applying the policies to the applications. And again, this is all without agents, and we just need credentials. And then we can do that restore of SQL Server. We support failover clusters, always on, and we can restore individual databases. So we can do the whole instance or an individual database, and we can also replay transaction logs to point-in-time recovery. So all built into the product. Targets, as I mentioned earlier, we support just about anything, NFS, SMB, iSCSI, also anything that's S3 compatible, Amazon and Google Cloud. And as I mentioned also, we do support tape archives with an extension through QStar. So policies is really the heart of HYCU. And as I mentioned, you can, out of the box of gold, silver, bronze, and exclude. But we also can create your own policies, and any policy can be a default policy. But just very quickly, you can create a so sorry about that. The so if we wanted to create a policy, let's call it default policy. So we have a default, we can say back it up once a day. We want to be notified if we can't recover this within 4 hours, and we want to keep this around for 2 weeks. That's all you need. That's the policy. You can tell it to, HYCU can automatically select the target, or we can say, we want to go ahead and let's use an Exagrid, or we want to go use a Nutanix objects cluster. We can do that. And then we can say how often we want new fulls to be generated through the backup chain. You can do secondary copies of the data. You can specify a backup window when you want fulls, when you want incrementals to occur, long-term archiving, how many storage snapshots to keep, and then with that robo feature I was mentioning, whether to back up from replica or not. And we can also do auto assignment based off tags or categories that you specified in vCenter or within Nutanix Prism Central. So we have a lot of automation features that are built in. We can also log all the events that go on, do email notifications, we have reports built in, and we have a multi-tenancy. So you can see we have a lot of great features built in to meet your customer needs. It's easy to install, it's very easy to configure. They can be up and running in no time, and they'll save a ton of time in managing their overall environment, and that's a huge cost savings just in itself. So I'm not seeing any additional questions in the chat window, but I'll just give it a second here in case anybody else has any questions. And not seeing any questions. So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining. Again, my name is John Lee, and I'm here to help you sell, and so is our team. Just please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to the Promark team. I want to thank them very much also for setting this up. And but if you have questions, and if we can help you with your customers, we want to help you sell, help you make money. So please reach out to us, and we'll help you with presenting this to your customers or get you engaged and with HYCU. So again, thank you for joining, and that's going to conclude the webinar for today.